Welcome to Yellow Brick Road. I am Jordan, and today I'm going over some points that were noticeable for me in regards to Elizabeth Warren's Medicare for All bill, or structure, or how she's going to pay for it. That's what the title says. But first, please consider donating to Devon's Journey to Recovery. The GoFundMe link is in the description box down there. Click that link, read the story, then donate some money yourself. None of the money goes to us. It goes to charity. I know I say this every time, but it needs to be said. It could be new viewers or whatever. And they need charity because we don't have something like Medicare for All, where everyone's taken care of, and, medical debt isn't a thing where you have police showing up at your house because you got sick or someone close to you got sick. So for now, the best way to help out is through charity, and you can, if you got $5, maybe more laying around, you can donate. Devon's Journey to Recovery, GoFundMe link in the description box. All right. Actually, one more thing. There's a good chance I'm live tonight on our second channel. I'm gonna go over the what's it called? The Iowa Liberty and Justice Dinner. Yeah, I might be live for that. I think that starts around 7 p.m. so Eastern time. So maybe I'll be live for that. Check that out if you want. All right. So I took some notes. It's a long fucking lot of words here. A lot of policy here of how she wants to pay for her Medicare for All system. Once again, I know people are going to give her, gripe because she's using the words Medicare for All, which is an actual bill which already exists, which is Bernie Sanders' thing. But, she sort of has to as a politician because it won't be accepted any other way, considering the audience she's probably targeting with this. So she has a lot of information here. A lot of shit here. All right. So I guess what I'll start with, got a hair in my mouth. How does this different from Bernie Sanders' plan? I can start with that. All right. So first of all, Bernie Sanders' plan is, I believe, to be 4 years. As you can see here, Elizabeth Warren's plan, quoting here, I have asked top experts to consider the long-term cost of my plan to implement Medicare for All over 10 years. So this is a 10-year process, apparently. It's like, I don't like that. I don't like that idea. That's a long time, 10 years. Shit can happen in 10 years. Especially, like I said in the intro, if you have sheriffs knocking on your door for debt collection, it's like. Also, I don't think she has any type of plan for clearing medical debt, which is a huge thing. Would be a huge deal to me. I'm like, that's fucking criminal. Especially that video I just did on the medical debt collectors. That shit is criminal. That's just like, that's being a life criminal. Maybe not on the law books, but in life, that's like, you're a criminal if you want to take part in that. So there's nothing mentioned here about clearing medical debt. At least I don't think there is. Please correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot of words here. I read through all of it, but I can always miss things. Another thing, she sort of coins a term. See if I can find this. Yeah. Oh, is it? There we go. She sort of coins a term here. See this? Employer Medicare contributions. And that, I believe, is how much money are employers kicking into the Medicare system. How much money are they putting into the system? And she sort of brackets it with how much, any business is going to pay based on the number of employees you have. Right? If you have if you have a company with less than 50 employees, you'd be exempt from having to pay this employer Medicare contributions. Unless, I believe it's unless you're already paying now, right? You would be exempt from this requirement too, if they aren't paying for employee health care today. So if you're a small business under 50 employees, you would be exempt from this employer Medicare contribution thingy. Also, if you exceed an income threshold, you'll also be required to pay for it. And I was watching a little bit of Nico House today, because he wants to fucking he wants to shit on whatever Warren puts out. So he's going to look for flaws. And he said something about, let me see. Okay. Something about this part. When either new or existing firms exceed this employee threshold, they would phase in a requirement that companies make employer Medicare contributions equal to the national average cost of healthcare per employee for every employee at that company. So whatever the national average is of what each employee pays, I think this is how it goes. Whatever the average is that each employee pays into Medicare, into healthcare, these companies will have to match that per employee. That's like a weird thing, because that would sound like, okay, if something's going on in this area of the country, because it says national average, if something happens in this area of the country that's different from this area in the country, it's like that could be playing a huge role with each other. But I might be able to understand, maybe I understand it with the thinking of it in regards to incentives, right? This whole thing, the whole shit she wrote out, it seems very incentives driven for businesses, as in, okay, there's a part where she says, okay, if you want to drive down your, employer Medicare contributions, if you want to draw that price down, if you're like, let's say you're paying above the national average, right? And you want to drive the business wants to drive its cost down for how much it has to pay into Medicare. What they can do is compensate their workers' wages instead of paying it to the Medicare. Whatever I take out of wages to pay for healthcare, if I just give the workers the wages, I pay less to the national Medicare system. Very incentives driven. Also, she brings up something in regards to doctors being paid more. A lot more doctors being paid a lot more because, well, this is in Bernie's plan too, but the elimination of Medicaid, right? Which are state programs, I believe, and it's for low-income families, which means doctors are taking in less money because Medicaid can only pay them so much because they're working with low-income families, right? So if there's a national health care program, now those patients are covered by Medicare, thus the doctors get paid more. She also mentions other doctors' pays are going to come down. I think she wants to put it in regards to procedure rather than like something like status, right? If you get heart surgery in Florida, it's going to cost the same as heart surgery in New York, right? Instead of, you're Dr. So-and-so, you're Dr. Strange and you're a douchebag surgeon, so you require more money, or your fucking house or something. Oh, you get more money because you're this guy. Those should have already been done away with, but if you want to legislate it, cool. Uh, okay. And then I have some questions. Once again, I'm not going to give you the best analysis of this whole thing. These are just questions or side thoughts or my analysis, which, isn't going to be much in the realm of economics or even, political legislation. Foreign policy, a little different. But with this stuff, I am indeed a novice. So I'm trying my best here. Uh, Here's a question I have. She talks about, let me see if I can find it. Basically, no out-of-pocket costs. Let's see if I can find that. So you'll see lines like this, virtually eliminating out-of-pocket costs. And my memory tells me Bernie says there are no out-of-pocket costs. Now, he hasn't gone into detail of how he's going to pay for his thing. Like, he says there's many ways to do it, but the result will be the same, I think. That's how he goes about it. But I'll get to that at the end. Let's see if she mentions it again. Virtually no out-of-pocket expenses. Okay. Over the next 10 years, individuals will spend $11 trillion on healthcare in the form of premiums, deductibles, copays, and out-of-pocket costs under my Medicare for All plan, meaning Warren's Medicare for All plan. That amount will drop from 11 trillion to practically zero. So I'm curious what the practically is. Maybe that's in here and I missed it. Please remind me. I doubt a lot of people will read through all of this. There's going to be a lot of people that just stop at, oh, see, she is Medicare for All. All right. So, yeah, 10 years as opposed to 4. Or apparently that Jaya Powell bill is 2 years. Yeah, here's another interesting part. She brings up military spending. See if I can find that. No? Military? Now I can look for Pentagon. Alright, let's see. Right here, I might read a lot of this. Reining in defense spending. Since the attacks of 9/11, the United States has appropriated $2 trillion to fund combat and counterterrorism operations around the world via the Overseas Contingency Operations Fund, or OCO. On average, the spending has amounted to $116 billion per year, and in total, an amount equivalent to nearly 10% of all federal discretionary spending over that same time period. No, don't click that. Don't click that. Click that. Goddamn Republicans. There we go. It's good enough. Republicans, including the president's current chief of staff, and Democrats alike agree that OCO is a budget gimmick that masks the true impact of war spending. The emergency supplemental funding mechanism was never intended to fund the cost of long-scale, long-term operations outside of the normal appropriations process. And in recent years, OCO has also been used to fund so-called base requirements unrelated to the wars outside of the Budget Control Act caps, in effect acting as a slush fund for increased Pentagon spending, and as everything from more F-35s to massive bombs never used in combat have migrated into the OCO account. The Department of Defense has been spared from having to prioritize or live within its means. It's not just bad budgetary practice, it's wasteful spending. I'll read on it. I've called out this slush fund for what it is. I've also called for an end to endless combat engagements in places like Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, and to responsibly bring our combat troops home from these nations. Well, you haven't done it loud enough for me. I mean, I haven't heard it enough and in detail enough. See, foreign policy is this thing where I'm gonna care less about your written out policy, even though that's needed as well, right? Less about what you write out. It's more about either what you vote for or what your rhetoric. And I would think rhetoric's even more important because now I can hear like what details do you know about this scenario, which is why uh, I look at Tulsi Gabbard as someone who's like way better than all the rest of them at foreign policy. It's not even close, I think, because she goes into detail with these things. I mean, there's only one person who has possibly like a better foreign policy stance on one fucking issue, just one issue, and that's Bernie on Israel-Palestine. Maybe that's because he's Jewish and he's not afraid to get called anti-Semitic. I don't know, but she wrecks all of them in foreign policy. I really think so. And that's just based off rhetoric, right? Alright. Continuing. These open-ended commitments are not necessary to advance American foreign policy or counterterrorism interests. Their human cost has been staggering, and their financial cost has created a drag on our economy by diverting money better invested in critical domestic priorities. I agree with that. Will you do that, though? Listen, the domestic shit, I can see Warren going for that. But when it comes to foreign policy, I expect the general to be like, shut the fuck up. I'm gonna go do this now. You're not gonna say shit about it. I dare you to complain about it. I think she will be pressed and pushed aside and says, sorry, you're not running our foreign policy. Do whatever you want at home. Have a ball. But when it comes to our operations, you're not doing shit about that. That's where I think, Warren comes in. I mean, that's what I think would end up happening with her foreign policy, just like most of them, other than really, I'm a little bit more sure of Tulsi Gabbard than Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders with Tulsi Gabbard would probably be the best thing, right? She talks about being approached by generals, man. Tulsi talks about that straight up, like, oh, I know these people already. If they come up to me, they're not going to intimidate me and give me information. Like, listen, Tulsi, you don't understand. If you don't shoot this bomb off, you're going to kill 1,000 people. It's like, that won't work on me. I know what's going on here. Anyways, I don't even need to read that. She's going to reduce defense spending overall, the Pentagon budget, all that bullshit. So, yeah. I like that. I like that she mentioned that. 100% like that. But, once again, I don't exactly believe her on the foreign policy. That's first of all. Maybe she can cut some spending there, but the operations will still happen. The bloodshed will still continue under her administration unless she hires more competent people in that area. But I could be wrong. I don't know. So the overall plan, oh, okay, she laid it out in detail. I'm like, good. That's really good. Put it in detail. How you're going to pay for it, what it is, what's going on here. Okay. So, all right. A lot of this is, once again, incentives, driving incentives. And I think that's going to, I'm guessing here, but that seems like it would be a difference between hers and Bernie Sanders' policy. Once again, Bernie's sounds more like an overhaul. Hers sound like incentives, like that leaked tape where she's talking to, I guess, union people, and she's telling them like we're gonna find a way to get you compensated for the money lost that you usually pay for healthcare with, right? We're gonna get that money back to you, and we'll do it by law. And what she means by that apparently is incentives, not actual law. Not you have to pay them if your company's not going to pay this much in healthcare anymore, then you need to compensate these guys in their wages. It's not by law, it's by incentives, meaning the employer doesn't actually have to pay that, but they would pay more towards that Medicare, bank. You'd have to throw more into Medicare. And when I hear incentives, I'm thinking like, is there loopholes? Is there going to be loopholes in this? Rather than you can't do this to people by law. All right? I don't like either way, to be honest with you. I'd be like, you're fucking done. But if these guys are going to go to a political route, one saying by law you'll be in trouble if you do this, and one saying you're going to want to do this because you like money, right? So come do this instead. Help people by default rather than just helping people. Or help people by default in regards to your fear of being punished, which would be by law. Once again, I would do something different. All right. There was something I was going to bring up, something in regards to Bernie Sanders, but I might have forgot it. God damn it. Bernie Sanders. How this plays out politically with Bernie Sanders, as far as what is his base, or maybe even like independents. What are they going to look at this scenario of Bernie versus Warren? I think Bernie people will say, okay, but Bernie's an overhaul of the system, right? Bernie isn't just Medicare for all. It's like, okay, Warren, now catch up in these other areas, which would be difficult because it seems like, I would say not an economics expert, but she seems to throw all her eggs in this one basket, which will keep her, keep her head above water in the race, right? Because right now, I think it's, as far as momentum-wise, Bernie is going to start pulling away. This could help her. I haven't seen people talking about it really, but this could help. And but Bernie's policy is too overhauling. You see, I think he allows for middle-class taxes to go up in this regard, in this area of his Medicare for All plan. But he's like, at the end of the day, he's like, oh, well, your overall cost for healthcare will go down. So that's part of his, thinking. But also, it's like, oh, we're also going to clear your medical debt. So the shit you're paying now for, a car accident you had 5 years ago, that's wiped off the books. Oh, you're still paying your student loans. You're a doctor. You're still paying your student loans. Like, oh, that's wiped off the books. So now it's like, okay, now the doctors are making more money too. And on it goes. He probably has some roundabout way of, lowering costs in the sense of, okay, more people will be healthy, so we won't be spending as much on resources for healthcare. Or maybe even there's some marijuana, helpfulness in regards to healthcare, as far as pain and pharmaceutical companies and prescription pill costs and all that shit. And maybe weed could help out and also generate a shit ton of money. A shit load of money. That's the stories I'm hearing. Like from Colorado, how much money that makes them. Just saying. And then you got the, free state college, the Green New Deal thing. He's got overhauling policy all over the place, so this isn't gonna worry Bernie fans so much. Plus the 10-year to 4-year difference is a big deal too. That's what they might complain about most of all. But all right, this was my non-expertise analysis of this thing. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you like. Comment, agree, disagree, send me information. Tell me I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong on something, and then explain how I'm wrong and send me information about it. That always helps. You can talk to us directly. On Twitter, you can talk to me directly. And on Instagram, you can talk to OCB directly. AKA, wait, is it OCB? Or James. The artist formerly known as James, who is now known as OCB. Off camera, bro. So yeah, if you want to talk to Yell Bro, you go on Twitter. If you want to talk to OCB, you go to Instagram. That's how it's done. Also, please donate. Devon's Journey to Recovery. GoFundMe link in the description box. Please donate, please. I beg you. It's not for us, for charity, but I still beg you. I beg you, please donate. And with all that said, give this video a thumbs down.
Say you wanna get in, and then you wanna get out. When you get the money to buy yourself a car, so how will you wear your leisure? You zipper back and front on the fence together. Weekends in the